With that, we're going to go into the healing.
We've got our video clips again, and a lot of this is repetitive again. We'll probably run through the healing a little faster. Our position in the healing horse is a little different, and we'll cover that on our graph or on our video clips.
Let me say one thing about the heel horse before we go on. We want to remember that the heel horse has a job, and that heel horse's job is to kind of keep that steer in a position for the header to be able to rope, not let that steer come over to the right. We have a little different setup at the World Show. These heelers want to stay back off these steers just a little bit. They would like for this steer to come a little bit right to allow them to have more arena on the left side for them to work with. This arena ends up getting pretty narrow pretty fast. So they don't want to really get up in that high position to force that steer left, because they want to be able for the judges to see their horses in a really good light. So we saw that horse right there with a really good box. His running rate, you would have liked to seen him maybe get up there just a little bit stronger, but yet he was still credit earning. He still had.
Well, his bullseye, if you were watching on that, he had to check him a couple times. Horse got a little strong in the bridle, not anything bad, but again, if your bullseye, if you were watching that, that's what took us from +1 to a +1/2. So still credit. Okay, this horse, he walks in the box really nice, turns around, is ready to do his job. I really like how this horse does it. He has just a little hesitation, and I think as he broke, he didn't know quite what to go. He set back, but then recovered. I will note that this horse is in the right lead, running down. Some judges are a little more critical of that. I think Leonard. It doesn't affect me until they get around the corner.
Yeah,
if they're in the wrong lead around the corner, it's going to affect their position on that corner.
They're in the wrong lead. They're not going to make the corner.
Exactly, they won't make the corner. But just make a note that horse was in his right lead. To me, I didn't. He changed before he started around the corner, so I'm okay with that. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, he changed leads 2 or 3 strides before he ever made the turn, so it had no effect on me. I felt like the horse was in good position. He was running free. I thought it was a credit earning running rate, so I was good with it.
These first 3 were all kind of, and when we set up the video, we really didn't have I just was the way they kind of came in on the video, but the first 3 were all pretty identical, which works fine. You're kind of getting your eye trained to a plus situation. I thought he broke a little close to the chute, and he had to make a slight adjustment, but still above average. I think
he got in a good position.
Yeah, good position. He was up there probably as good as any of the 3 as far as up by the steer. Should be up there kind of by the hip of that steer.
One thing that we might say that we've not had the opportunity to say, that rope horses have to be handled. They're a different animal. They have to be put in a place. They have to be put in a position most of the time. That last run as he left the box was a good particular example. He had to move that horse over to the right. That horse started left a little bit, and he had to move him to the right, but the horse responded well. He reacted to the bridle. He didn't give him a fit. He didn't break the tie down or anything like that. So there was really nothing there that I could say that was a negative for me. So I actually liked that horse's running rate. He actually put him up there in a good place.
And then you just wait and see how the rest of the run goes.
Yeah.
Evolution of the rest of it.
Yeah. So this one gets in the box and I'm off. So this one gets into the box and you know, his approach is fine. I'm okay with what I'm seeing right here. It's all pretty good. But once we turn around and he starts to sit down in that corner, I'm not real high on that. I'm not a big fan. I'm gonna knock him 1 point for that. And then being set back in that box didn't allow that horse to break very good. So he ended up being late and being very late. So he was -2 on the running rate.
Can you replay that one more time? I think.
You just want to make everybody see that I said -1 and it was
Well,
zero.
I think that where Linder's talking about that is, I think the first part of that, and then again there was a good point. He did approach the box, he turned around, and then to me where he got on my thought process is negative is in his running rate, and that's a little contradicting of what we said, but here he's late, and as you watch this rider, I mean, I think your bullseye goes to his left leg. Can you do that one more time? And second of all, I've watched it enough is he's got his right hand back behind him, so he's trying to gain some speed however he can.
He wants to whip this
Yeah.
horse pretty bad, but he's not a good spot to do that. So
Uh,
not a good box and running rate here. This is a negative box running rate.
Watch his left leg. He's kicking all he can. He's trying to drive him up there, and he's so far behind. And I could -3 that if you felt you wanted to.
That's definitely a 2. You know,
Yeah.
that's as low as that's as weak as you want to be.
Yeah.
Any less than a 2 is probably a little weak. Just wasn't anything. You watch this, and just you didn't really do anything wrong. You just didn't do anything impressive. You know, we're looking for something we're looking to something to wow us a little bit in all these runs. We're looking for somebody to give us something to really work with. Yeah, he got there. He stood still. He looked forward, but
Kind
it
of
just
hit him
wasn't.
just a little bit to
Yeah.
me, you know.
And he didn't run in a nice fashion. His head was up in the tie down. He was in that right lead and actually changed leads to a crossfire for a little while. I bet you that by the time he made the turn, he's in the correct lead. But made it look a little bit. It just wasn't a pretty. It wasn't a credit earning deal. It just was one of those things you go, okay, well, it's okay, 0. And then you get away from it. You go on to the next one. Okay, so here's something after we come back. I want to talk about this one. So we have here a perfect case of poor showmanship. You know, this guy, I'm not going to penalize this horse because this horse has a natural reaction. If you can't hear it, of course, but if you'll back that up one more time, right there just as he's in front of that chute, if you'll back that up right here, good, perfect. You see this steer slam this chute. You watch this steer slam that chute. Well, that horse reacted out of fear. Well, oh my God. Well, I probably would have done the same thing. So I didn't really hold that against that horse. He's not getting any pluses right now, but like I said, I didn't hold it against him. I'm not really minusing him now. Till he gets into here. Now that very thing could have rattled this horse to this degree, but all this has caused this horse. I didn't penalize anything. There was no refusal there for me, or anything like that, but it caused him a minus in the
I
box.
think we did give a 5. Nope, we didn't.
And I'm a lot harder on the heel horses. Maybe I don't like a heel horse dancing around. I want that heel horse to definitely get in there and get flat-footed, get quieter.
Here's our prime example.
Yep, here heel horse is supposed to be quieter on their feet. That horse just was not. So here we go with the new one. You got it.
And this horse never does relax. He does it inadequate. He's kind of rocked back in the corner, leaning on his right side. To me, there and now he's late. he's way behind. If you see the position of that, whereas he's 2 horse lengths behind that steer as he's approaching, and again, you know, you can use that range of a -1 on that. I think as we talk about evolution of the run, that we're going to see that where that position is later on in the run. If you saw the rest of that run, and we've got a couple here that will show the other part of the run too, and it feeds into each other. So.
Do you guys want a question on those runs now or at the end?
Let's do this one, then we can take a question. We've got one in progress, so. This is one of those I'm talking about. I'm really a little bit unforgiving on a horse that does this in the heel side. If he'd have done this in the head and side or the calf rope inside, I'd probably been a lot more forgiving. But I don't want this heel horse to do this. We've got so much. We've only got so much things we can work with as far as scoring him, and this horse is wanting out of there. So, I'm pretty sure this is a -1 in the box, and he was just so in the running rate. So we've got a -1 and a 0. So if you guys will pause, we'll take our question right quick.
Okay, a couple questions. I believe it was the previous horse about a 5-point penalty for a rear. Would you apply that?
No, I didn't.
I think that horse came up with kind of 1 foot, but I think when the committee or they talked about that is the rear is both hind feet coming. You know, it was questionable that, but to me, I took it in the maneuver on that. The other horse,
Saddlehorn ever lifted up.
no, I think he just kind of hopped up with his left front, if I remember, and just kind of came up. The other horses we've seen that have reared have came up and went straight up, you know, off of both front. I think that's what they said the definition to help you in that call is both of them. I don't know that one exactly came all the way up.
I want to see a horse, if I'm going to hit him with a rear, I want to see him standing still and then come straight up. And I want to see it come, if we've all seen a horse lift their front feet up and that saddle horn never moved. You know, and that to me doesn't constitute a rear. I want to make sure that those front feet get up and those shoulders get up before I'm going to charge them with a 5-point penalty. Just being a little nervous. I want to hit him in the maneuver, as Jeff said, but I'm probably not going to get him a 5. And I didn't see anything in that warranted a 5-point penalty to me.
Okay, and then another question about refusal, and I guess it's a point of clarification. A refusal is a refusal regardless of the reason, wouldn't it be?
So I'm sure that goes back to where the steer jumped into the chute. Well, what did that horse refuse? What did that horse refuse to do? You know, he didn't refuse to go in the box. He didn't refuse to do anything that the rider asked him to do. He jumped sideways, but he wasn't refusing anything. When that rider got back and asked him to go into the box, he did. So there was no refusal there. There was no evasion. There was no. I mean, you might have said, well, he evaded the box. I would have evaded the box too. You know, I
would have scared me.
Yeah, you know, you didn't hear in this deal. We didn't hear what that was going to be a really loud bang, and bless his heart, that the guy that put him in that position deserved the -3. He ended up getting in the box, but because he's got his horse stirred up. But there, and I suppose if you wanted to give it a -5 for a refusal, just be able to defend that to yourself or to someone else. I like to be able to defend it to myself. You know, what just happened? I always thought to myself, what happened right there? Did that horse refuse to go somewhere no, not in my opinion.
He reacted to the steer, but he wasn't disobedient.
Yeah,
I think that's the clarification. He you know, to me, a 5 is disobedience or our rules are blatant disobedience that steer hit that, and I'm sure as Leonard said, that exhibitor put that horse in a bad position to call. I mean, why would you walk up to the front of the chute? I mean, I don't know.
But that's why we put that run in here, just for this discussion.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked that question.
Very good question.
That's a good question. But in our opinion, and we've discussed this at length, and I've discussed it with other people, in our opinion, again, I think that if you had heard the noise, if we'd been there live and heard that big, huge bang when that steer hit that chute, and that horse saw that steer's head come forward like that, I think that would have maybe swayed you in a little different direction. But if you want to say the penalty 5, he refused to do what? Be able to tell yourself what he refused to do. Refusal to me is when somebody asks me to do something and I say no. I ask that horse to do something and it says no. To me, that's a refusal. That didn't happen in that situation.
That was a reaction.
That was a reaction. Good word. So, I hope that answered your question satisfactorily.
No, we're good. Sorry.
We're good?
We're good?
Okay.
All right, so. We're into the position, or we're still in the box.
still box
Okay,
run, right.
all right. I had to pause and I lost my total
I know.
concentration.
Good questions, though.
Yeah, very good questions. But I know I really like that horse. I like this horse in the box. If you want to go higher than a 1, than a +1, and I think you could. I like him as a +1 myself. He was good in the box. And this is personal. It's hard for me to get way up there in the heeling. Because of they're not supposed to be on the muscle the way the heel horse and the calf horse is. So it's really hard personally for me to get up above that. Every once in a while I'll see it. I'll have it happen, but that's generally a good horse in the box for me is a +1. And then we saw that he was just a little bit behind in his running rate. Not terrible, but he didn't warrant any credit there. So it was just a 0 running rate.
Where our bay horse that the guy had his rope behind him never did establish back to any sort of a position. This horse did gain back up to at least a 0 in my opinion. And I think that run shows up later again on our clips, and I think you'll see the result of how it works out.
I feel like this horse is credit earning in the box and in his running rate. I don't see anything that's a negative here. I like him. He's quiet. He could have stood up a little straighter just to be very picky, but so we give him a +0.5 in the box, +0.5 in the run rate. I think he could have easily been a +1 on his run rate. He was probably up there better than most horses we've seen so far. So +0.5 is what we scored. If you wanted to go +0.5, +1, I think it's very much in your
Credit earning
scope.
maneuvers.
Yep, very much in your range. They were both credit earning. So now we'll go into the position and the stop. If we got the question again about what's the most important, the biggest maneuver in the heeling, I think this is it. Positions, these two maneuvers are quite a bit, for me, carry a little weight. Position is so important to the heeler being able to get a good, honest throw. And stop, of course, we're judging that on how he handles and how he holds that steer. So right there, we saw a pretty good example of a +1 position. He gave that guy an easy throw and a +1 stop where he really stayed in the ground good and held that big steer all the way through the face. Another good example for me of excellent and actually degree of difficulty here. If you saw that steer go underneath this horse, almost go underneath this horse, see this steer started in one pattern and ended up in another, and this horse moved over enough that rider was able to get a good throw at him and then really parked it and held a steer. Very high degree of difficulty there and really a nice eye appeal. So in those, I would be having to plus him in those two boxes also. I thought, you know, +1.5. We used half numbers. We're trying to get everybody to be on whole numbers. This is an old video, so if I would have been 2 and 2, and I would have actually been plussing his degree of difficulty for sure, because that steer made a big move underneath that horse, and he recovered well and put that man in a shot to still get a good throw.
I think one of the things on that horse that I really like is, and in healing, sometimes it's hard. A smooth run can be a difficult run, and I think as a judge, a horse that is excellent at all the maneuvers will make it look so easy that you'll bypass it just a little bit. You'll think, well, did it really? But it was so smooth, and so to me, that horse is one that did that. That looked so effortless and everything. But don't miss that run. I think as a judge, you know.
Yeah, again, those were high degree of difficulty maneuvers that he just pulled off right there, and you know, eye appeal on that for me was really good. So, you know, just be able to take that into account.
This run is a difficult one, and we've talked a lot about this one. I thought his position was behind, therefore.
Well, if
We
you
gotta go back.
see, he's beginning. This horse is beginning to bow out before, and by bow out I mean he's beginning to slow down and back off way before this guy's ready to rope, and he ends up making him have to take a long throw at this steer, and then it affects his stop because he's not able to balance up and get stopped. You know, he says right here he's already quit, and that guy had to take a long throw. And ends up roping one leg because he just doesn't have the ability to get it through there.
And I think this one on our video, and we've discussed this, I'm not sure you couldn't call that a penalty 5 for assuming the wrong side of the steer.
It's hard to tell on these videos.
It's hard,
so we
yeah,
didn't do it.
we did not do it on that, but I'm pretty sure if you were live, and depending on where you sat in the arena, I'm not sure that wasn't a penalty 5.
So back that up one more time, please.
If you
since
can
we-
pause it right as he throws his rope.
Yeah, since you brought that up, let's have a look at that because I want to be able to see that and see. Everybody can kind of see what we were talking
Okay,
about.
there you go.
Yep, perfect.
Now right there. Well, a little more. Whoop.
You know, it's hard to tell on here. It's possible that it happened. Just know, you know, we want you to be aware that this possibly happened, and what happens when, if that horse had assumed a position on the right-hand side of that steer, that's a 5-point penalty. It's hard to tell on there, so we didn't charge him on the video, but you know, like Jeff said, that he's just trying to keep you guys aware that could have possibly happened if you'd have seen it live and had the depth perception.
I think this horse really runs in there. To me, is his position runs in there, follows that steer around. I kind of like how he gets in position. We've talked about this stop on it, and I know a lot of you saw him kind of when he took that jerk. One thing we always want to look at is there's quite a few little bit of maneuvers in each one of those, and that horse, yeah, he got, to me, did everything good till he took the jerk, and therefore we left him. I guess if you were looking at that, you could say a +1/2 on when he threw the rope, and then his -1/2 when he took the jerk, and therefore we came up with a 0. I think if you -1/2 him on that on your stop, I think that's okay, or just notice that happened. I kind of like this run. You know, he's maybe just a smidge back from where I would really like it, but yet makes the corner really smooth, allows him to throw his rope. The main thing is on the heel, and if you notice, to me is the horse should run to that position, rate, and let that exhibitor throw his rope as that steer is moving away from the horse. That's one thing we really haven't talked about on your position, or you know, once they make that corner. if you see a lot of guys rope a front leg on a horse or something, and it used to be in the Brazil down there, those guys would run around and they swung real wide, and then they roped as they wanted a big slide, and they would rope as they were running to the steer. Well, they roped their front foot a lot because they're actually roping as they're running to the steer, and therefore that loop comes around and it catches that horse's front leg. All of these good runs, and I wish I would have I think you can go back and look at it, but every one of our good runs that horses ran to the position behind, followed the tracks of that steer, rated without resistance, and let that exhibitor rope as that steer's moving away, which makes a really pretty run. I think it's that's part of our show. It is somewhat of a rodeo sport, but we're a horse show, and I think that's one of the things that we want to encourage. That's a pretty run. The roan horse did that, and that horse, that was a plus situation. He didn't really hardly touch him, I don't think.
No, and another thing you have to look at is this arena setup is kind of conducive. That horse, like Jeff just said, he might have been a smidge behind in his running rate, but I think that was all planned and predetermined, because that was, if you noticed, where he caught that steer in the arena was an excellent place for the judges to be able to see how he performed. So I feel like that was probably planned. And I think that we as judges, when you're judging the World Show, and they've always done a good job of this, on our run rate, it's a little different than in other arena setups, because these guys are having to they're having to take a relatively small arena, and get their horse shown in there. So I applaud what he did on this particular previous run, though it looked like he was a little behind, may have had to come in a little bit early. I still think he had, what do we have, +1, I believe, and I think that's plenty. I think that he got in a great position. He didn't come in at the steer's head. He didn't come in at the steer's shoulder. He cut it off just a little bit, but he came in at the steer's hip and got a really very nice throw. So I think it was very credit earning. Question.
So this is with regard to scoring. If your words are telling you, if you're watching a maneuver and your words are telling you excellent, then how about putting a +3 on that? Is that all right?
That's what +3 is.
Okay,
Excellent is +3.
very good.
Good question.
All right, and then will we see an example of a horse that shuts down? Do we have an example of that coming up? Is the
I
question.
don't think so.
In the healing, is that?
Shuts them out in healing. We've got an example, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
kind of do.
Yeah, kind of do.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Remember, if they'll remember the term makes him rope, we've got one of those coming up here in just a second.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And maybe that just about shuts him out. So.
Again, this horse runs around the corner's position was good. Makes that corner, rates, allows himself, the roper, to throw that rope. And the reason I went with we thought 1.5 was he really took that jerk and held it tight. I mean, that horse, with not much pull on the bridle reins, that horse really stayed in the ground and held a pretty good jerk.
Yeah, he
I
wasn't.
felt.
Yeah, Jay, the rider right there wasn't laying back on the bridle. He wasn't leaning back to help that horse. And that horse kind of took it on his own. He moved his feet a little bit, but that horse took a tremendous jerk right there. So we gave him credit for what he had to do with it. That horse really worked.
And he didn't slip any rope. Sometimes you'll see a guy that'll slip a little rope to hide taking that jerk, but he didn't. He held that. I'm sure that exhibitor knew that horse would hold that steer.
He didn't weaken that hit at all. So
Yeah.
we had to give him credit. It wasn't a +3. He would, like I said, wasn't a +2 probably, because he was moving his feet around a little bit. But we just felt like it was a little better than a +1. So 1.5. Great example of a guy getting in really good position to take a shot that just a very quick throw on the corner. he might not have shown me his horse quite as much as the guy that took one more jump up through there and allowed him to get started enough to show. But had great position. He probably he wasn't going enough to allow his horse to show me a really nice stop. He didn't have enough speed going around the corner because he was in such great position. Yeah. He roped really good. That was though it was fast, I have to give that horse a lot of credit and a lot of points because he was right there where he needed to be at all times and allowed that guy to have a very easy, quick throw.
And a lot of ropings that you might judge, maybe not your big ones, but that run might win a lot of your healings because that's your best run.
That went a lot. That roping right there went a lot of to big healings.
Exactly.
I like that run, and there'll be times when you'll see that run and probably give it more points than what we did right there.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what it did in the box or the.
Right. That's all. Yeah. But those two maneuvers were really good. Okay, so here's the closest thing we've got to shutting out. The person who asked the question, do we have an example of being shut out? It's pretty close. This guy had one shot and one shot only. He makes the turn. He gets his horse right there, and that horse is not going one step further. So he had to rope right there. That's the turn that horse made him rope. That guy felt like that. I've got this shot, and then this is it because my horse is already stopping it before I've ever thrown my rope. So that's pretty close to shutting out. So that was a minus maneuver. Here's a scenario of a horse that we've had similar runs, but see where this horse gets right there. See where that horse gets to his position being poor because he was at least at the steer's shoulder if he wasn't at the steer's horns. So he made his turn and he might have felt like he didn't have enough horse to get in to run up and get in position.
He almost comes in when you first look at that. His horse is headed towards the middle of the rope as he turns that corner. Then the header actually kind of drags that steer in front of him.
Well, he does. He has to drag him by because he's in such poor position right there. So
be aware of watching that on your bullseye as they come around that corner. So that was a good example of that. This was our horse that we liked in the box. We thought he could have been a little farther up, which again, evolution of the run caused him to be a little late. Coming around the corner, he cut it just a little bit. Therefore, we had a +1, a 0, a 0, and a +1. Well, when you break that down, that's a 72 run, and that's a good run. It's not going to win a roping, but it might win somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so the evolution of that, when you follow your score of +1, so his 0 run rate made him a 0 on. He did recover enough, I think.
He stopped stopped really well. There might be a lot of folks, even me, who might have scored that down a little higher. Mm-hmm. But
when you watch the evolution of, we're breaking every maneuver down, and I think sometimes you lose your continuity of the run. And we might be a little lower from looking at it this way, where live you might, as Leonard said, you might say, well, I'm going to mark it a 73 live because the flow works pretty good.
And quite possibly your eye appeal box would have put that horse up another point, so you could be real easily could be higher than that. I mean, if you remember the first two maneuvers we scored and the last two maneuvers we scored, that was probably one of our better runs. Mm-hmm. So, we get, as long as we probably got him in the points, I think we're doing pretty good. So we'll go from there. All right. Well, so we're done with our maneuver scoring. Now's a good time for questions if you have anything.
We are caught up.
Wow.
We're caught up. So
now we're ready for our.
We're going to go healing. If you've got a score sheet, get your score sheet. And we're just going to do what we've been doing. We're getting down to closing this thing up. So we're going to judge 10 healing runs. And I guess one reason I say we're getting close to the end of this thing, if you have questions, remember there's a delay. So actually, it seems like we're getting our questions in pretty quick.
I think so. Well,
Doesn't seem to be much delay. So send them on in because we want to answer all the questions that we can. Before
we do if somebody's really paying attention, and I just talked to Patty about this, and we've done a little changing on our score sheet, and Leonard didn't even see this, but this is our Healing score sheet, and even the sheet Carla gave me a little bit ago that's on the webinar are 2 boxes there, but they will be fixed and before you go judge anywhere. So
they can't get anything by you, can they? Nothing gets by Jeff. Remember that when you're showing to him. So yeah. And Carla's not even here. We don't get to tease her.
No.
So. But that's okay. We're, those are
She
going
has
to
had
be
her fingers typing since we've been here.
This is a good proving process.
right.
Yeah.
It is. So those are going to be position
Now,
and stop.
okay,
so.
Patty, can they use these score sheets now through the end of the year, or are these January 1?
Those aren't even up on the web. The only place they're on is on Blackboard.
Okay.
So they're not even available online.
Are you going to change them before January 1, or?
Change them tomorrow.
Okay. So they will be, if they have a open next week, they can.
They'll be, they can't use the degree difficulty.
Okay, that's
They'll
what-
be
okay.
up to 2008.
Okay, that's so.
But we put them on Blackboard.
Patty, do you-
For them to.
Patty needs a microphone, doesn't she?
Okay.
I think you need a microphone for that.
Here,
Oh.
pass the microphone.
Okay, that's a Patty question. I just thought of it.
Okay, so these will be fixed on Blackboard tomorrow, but they won't be on the forms page. Officially, these aren't to be used until January 1, 2018. So we're working off 2018 rules here. So all of these will be uploaded on the forms page where you normally print off your score sheets. They'll be at the end of December. So they'll be available. We put them on Blackboard just for your benefit for the workshop, so we could all be working off 2018 rules. Okay? Good. Adding all
And I
those
didn't proof
extra
it very
boxes and
good.
taking stuff off and adding comment boxes.
And
So,
Carla's been great because
Yeah.
we've thrown a lot at her in 2 days.
Yeah.
So
we'll get them fixed. They'll be fixed tomorrow. Oh, wait a minute. I don't need that. Here, I'll look at
okay, I think we're ready for our 10 runs.
You see this? Okay.
I got them memorized.
Oh, good. I
I've
don't.
seen them enough.
Oh, I don't.
I can write in the scores if you want. No.
So I think this is a pretty good run. This is our very first one. Again, we want to be able to put these guys, you want to be able to, as Jeff has said in his rad thing there, we want to be able to reward excellence and document it. And so this being our very first run, we've got a pretty darn good score. We've got him +1 in the box. We've got him a +0.5 on his running rate. I think we've covered all that. +1 on his position, and +1 on his stop. 73.5. That is 0, the degree of difficulty in the eye appeal.
Normally, I probably wouldn't start with a half in a
We'll try
roping.
not to.
I guess if you were probably with our boxes here, if you ended up with a 3.5 and you wanted to go up, maybe you could give him that extra half on your eye appeal or however you wanted to do that and get him a 4. I don't see anything wrong with a 3.5. I think I might feel better if it was a 4, if it was
Yeah.
a big roping. If there was 12 horses in it or something, I'd probably be fine with a 3.5.
Yeah, we're not
So-
exactly preaching what we're teaching, but
Yeah, well,
we kind of want to.
Well, we only got 10 horses. So.
Yeah, we'd like to start it out. We'd like to start our classes out with whole numbers, and very easily could have made that horse a 4. Very easily could have made him a 3. So but 3.5 is what it is today. So let's continue on. So here's a horse that we talked about. We've seen both ends of this run, and we have him at a +1 in the box. We have him at a +1 in his running rate, and I'll wait for it to go on till we talk about it. +1 in his running rate. Position, +1.5, particularly with that degree of difficulty. +1.5 to stop. You could easily 2 it. You could easily give it a 2. I give that horse a +1 for degree of difficulty. I'm not going to give him any more than that, so I'm going to 0 his eye appeal, but I definitely feel like that was a big time move on that position, so I gave him a +1 in his eye appeal, and he ended up, we scored him a 75, but if you use your new box, he comes to a 76. And I like that. I like that, being able to put that little more onto this horse. It was a run that impressed me from the get-go. I liked everything about it, and when I got to the end of it at a 75, I said, man, I just feel like there's a little more to this run than that, and I was able to give it to him through that degree of difficulty box, and so that's one thing that I really like about that box. He put that. I was able to put a number on that horse that I was really pleased with. So.
Let somebody else come and beat him if it happens.
Right. Okay. So this horse is okay in the box. I think he was maybe a little better than okay. I got him a +1/2. I don't think much more than that's warranted. If you want to do a 0, I think that's okay. I like him a little bit. He's just pretty good here, so I give him a +1/2. I thought his position was a +1. I sure thought that the stop was just no more than a 0. I feel like if you wanted to. He took a hit on a pretty big steer. You saw that saddle lift up off his back. If you wanted to credit that a little bit more, if you wanted to maybe increase that through your degree of difficulty, okay. But I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to give it +1/2, +1, and make that a 72. I just really feel like a 72 is just about where that run belongs, and. When you're sitting there with your scribe and you say, what'd that end up? You end up at 72, and you like that. So I just pretty much.
Is that
like
a
where
fair
that ended
score?
up. Is that a fair score? You bet. It fits right in that league. So let's go. So here's a run that probably today I would give this a -1 in the box. I'm not real happy with this horse in the box. He kind of squats and is nervous and is moving around. I wasn't real happy with that, and the fact that he wasn't good in the box made him be late, made him get a -1 on on his
Run rate.
running rate, and his position was a 0, and his stop was -1 for a 67.5. If you wanted to take some more way on the eye appeal or take some more way, I'm zeroing both of those. But if you know, if you felt like that should have had some more taken away, 67.5 is what they got. We got a 67 because I
Yeah.
did a -1 instead of
Okay,
minus half. So. Real similar, well, no, a little different in the box. I took more away from this horse because of the way he left the box than the way he was in the box. I have him at his -1 in the box, 0 in his run rate. I should wait till we go back on the second part, I suppose. I guess I should wait for the rerun. You guys have to forgive me.
Well,
I
you'd be ahead
I
of
just
us,
get
though.
in a
That way
hurry.
They can see it as they go.
Yeah.
Might be better to talk it at a little before.
Well, I just, this horse, he's okay. He just comes in the box and does this part. But I took more, I don't like him being stiff in there, but I really didn't like the way he left the box. So I hit him for a point for a -1. I zeroed his run rate. His position was -1.5. I didn't like that, or we didn't like that. And we -1/2 the stop for 67. Then I know we got a tie right here in the middle. Those ties, there is a good spot. You know, we talked about being able to take a little away from the horse in our eye appeal and degree of difficulty box. And there's a good spot. I don't want to use this box as a tiebreaker, but sometimes which one of those two runs? You've got back-to-back runs that had the same score. So which one did you like better or less? I'm going to say the second one because it got done a little bit quicker and everything happened. So if I had to go on and break a tie, I would probably put a half point on my degree of difficulty or something like that, just to break the tie, just to make the show run on. So let's go. Usually in a good size roping class, 30 horses or something like that, you got that 67 and there's 2 or 3 of them down there. You're not even going to worry about breaking that tie. So, because it's not going to place usually. So, not a big threat, not a big worry. So this horse just is, this is one of those horses that just did his job. I mean, he really didn't do anything above and beyond the call of duty. He just kind of went through the motions and got everything done. He's okay in the box. He's not just as relaxed as I want to see him, so a 0. Kind of fought the bridle just a little bit right there coming out. Not enough that I really just tore him up, but I'm going to say it's a 0. Position was okay. I still just wanted to call it a 0, and I zeroed his stop for a 70. I appeal and degree of difficulty were just 0s for me and for Jeff. I keep saying for me, but it's both of us. I'm scribe. You're my scribe today. So he was okay in the box, I gave him a +1/2 in the box. I thought he was okay. Well, I want you to notice something in the run rate that I really feel like he was purposely done, but it caused me to just give him a 0 score. You'll notice he holds this horse out way wide, and he holds him way to the right, holds him way out here for just a little while, but then he really gets him in a good position for roping and really puts on a good stop for a +1 on both the position and the stop for a 72.5. I zero the other 2 boxes for a 72.5. I feel like that's just about where that belongs. He's close to that 72. I like this one just a slight bit better, so 72.5. So I wasn't a fan. You're not going to be a fan of this horse in the box. It's just, you know, this is in the healing. This is kind of where we got to get a little picky about this, because most horses are pretty quiet, and we don't have a. We've got a limited amount of maneuvers to judge, so we've got to be a little more picky. And I just don't like one to be on the muscle like that. So I have a -1. He's late on his running rate, and in his position, as we talked about, he had to take in and he had to take a one and only shot. He made a turn. He got the guy a throw. They pulled it off. I gave him just an amount of credit for getting to it, so I minus half the position and -1 the stop for 66.5, and 0 the other 2 boxes. You know, if you changed your boxes around, but as long as you kind of got close to that score, that's what we're looking for. We can all go a different road to get to the same place. So we just know that run was a negative run.
Our bottom horse.
Yeah, we would be. Yeah, right now he is our bottom horse. So yes, that would be. Okay, so another horse here that we weren't real happy with him in the box. He rides in showing us he's a little on the muscle, a little bit nervous, and then it all shows up when he turns around. So I've got him a -1 in the box. Again, he's late. I'm watching him go down the pin. He's kind of a little gap in the mouth and is bumping on that tie down for a -1/2 in the run rate, and the position also the same thing as a -1/2 and a 0 to stop for a 68. 0, 0, the 2 other boxes. Okay, so this horse is just okay in the box. He comes in there with a little fidget, not bad, nothing that's, he's not on the muscle like a couple of the previous horses have been. He's kind of leaning back on that corner just a little bit, but I gave him a 0 in the box. And I watched him and go through it. I've got him a +1/2 in the running and rate. I've got him a +1/2 in the position, and I've got him a 0 in his stop. You might want to give that stop a little more credit than that, but for today we've got him as a 71. You could have given him a little bit more. I don't think that was a run that warranted much more of a score than that. So that's pretty much where we've got it. So you may have some differences. Right now today, the placings was number 2 horse was the winner, and number 1 horse was second. And we have the number 7 horse is third. So if you got those 3 horses in that top range, in the point earning range there, which would have been in these 10 horses, then you've done well. And your middles are going to just work themselves out, and we've got to make sure we had that 1 or 2 horses down at the bottom. I'm sure we probably have a couple of questions, Karen.
Yeah, we do. Would you address 1 leg versus 2 legs scoring?
Well, it has no effect. 1 leg versus 2 legs has no effect in the scoring. It may have a little effect on how the horse performs. It's a different kind of a jerk, a different kind of a hit that the heel horse takes when they rope 1 leg, but it has no effect in our scoring. A lot of times I'm so focused on the horse, I don't know how many feet they roped. I don't know if they roped 1 leg or 2, and it just has no effect on us as judges. So
I think a little bit, if I would say anything, it's the aesthetic value of the run might be a little different, just to see a run that ropes 2 feet. But as far as how the horse works, to me, I don't even notice half the time.
I've seen a couple of reserve world champions won with legs. So
Yeah.
in the heel, and I don't know that I've ever seen a world champion won with the leg, but I've seen 1 or 2 world reserves won with legs. So
So you don't make any notations or anything about
I do
that?
not. I
Thank
do
you.
not. That I don't think there's like I said, Jeff said it pretty much perfectly, that the aesthetic value to it may have something to do with it, but it's a quite different jerk on the heel horse, and it may affect the way that horse takes the jerk. It may affect the way the run turns out, but other than that, I make no notation of it whatsoever.